Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I'm Captain Sedaris.
And here's Seven.
And I'm Angel.
Hi Angel. It's amazing that you can say you're a long-time player of Team Fortress 2 and on the side you create two amazing Star Wars mods. How is this possible?
Is it two? Oh, I guess yes, there's a Star Trek versus Star Wars. Well, I don't play TF2 all the time. I haven't played it for too much recently because of TFTC, but I still find the time now and then to unwind, relax with a bit of instant respawn carnage.
And how did you go into the TF2 franchise? What was the selling point?
Well, to be honest, my first attempt to play TF2, I didn't really like it all that much, or at least I didn't really get into it. I don't even remember what year I actually started playing it. It might have been 2006, I want to say. Because I think the game came out in 2004 or 5. I can't exactly remember. Anyway, yeah, I started playing it again and I sort of, this is okay. And I think I was playing heavy most of the time, or maybe NG. And I just started playing from there. And then eventually I finally got Pyro. I understood how to play Pyro, and then that became my main for the rest of the time I've been playing it, basically. Pyro is by far my favourite class.
And did you have also experience in the classic game?
No, I have played it a couple of times, but I never really played the classic Team Fortress. I was always more into, at the time anyway, Counter-Strike.
Well, it was a really niche game back then. Sometimes it wasn't even a game, sometimes it was more a mod, and then slowly it became a standalone version, basically.
Just like Counter-Strike and Day of Defeat.
Yeah, many classic Half-Life mods, that's so true. But I would say let's go for the question, what is Team Fortress 2? The game is a team-based shooter from the year 2007. In it, the player join one of two teams, red or blue, and play, as you just mentioned, one of 9 different classes, for example the Pyro or the Engineer, in even 9 completely different modes like Capture the Flag, King of the Hills, Payload, just to name a few. Sadly, besides some basic bots, the game doesn't offer much single-player content, so you really need other players to find enjoyment in this game, which isn't hard because the game is free-to-play since 2011, so that shouldn't be a problem. The game has still many different Discords, many game servers, so every new player can find a good place and some help. Just Google it basically or look in the description of the video talking about the community. Since you are a long-time player, what can you tell us about the community?
Well, first off, apparently I'm quite wrong with the date, so it's 2007, not 2006. So I started playing, obviously, about 2 years after the game came out, I think. As far as the community goes, I tend to gravitate towards community servers which have decent people. I like Carnage, so 32-player instant respawn is usually my cup of tea, which is, quite frankly, probably not everyone's cup of tea, because it's complete and utter chaos, and it's quite hard to win sometimes with that kind of combination. But I was for several years part of the UKCS community, and they had about 8 servers, which were ranging from the Carnage I just mentioned to Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, variety of different game modes and types to cater for most people. But unfortunately, as time went on, like years, those servers and communities eventually died off. For these days, the last few years, I predominantly play on, again, another 32-player instant respawn server called Fragmasters. That somehow continued to survive, and is also, incidentally, how I met my wife.
I'm so curious to hear that full story, but for now, let's continue a little bit more on the history, and then we go to that interesting subject. The development story of Team Fortress 2 is very long, but sadly also very unknown. Originally, it was planned as a modern war shooter. The first public appearance was at an E3 in 1999. And yeah, not even a year later, the developers decided to switch to a totally new game engine, which we all now know as the Source engine. After that, they even had 6 years of total silence. They just moved the developer team around in-house, and after that came back to the game, created 3 or 4 different versions of the game until they finally settled down with the design we all know. The first time the game was publicly shown as we know it was at E3 2006. This was basically the first time we saw the cartoon look. Many fans were really curious why they switched it. The reason what I could find was more or less that they thought the gameplay is too unrealistic to fit basically the original style. So they said, yeah, let's switch it to a cartoon look. And in 2007, in October, basically, the game was released as a standalone game and as part of the Orange Box, a compilation box where we had Half-Life 2, Episode 1 and 2, Portal and Team Fortress. And I guess many players have it from that original time. Of course, the free-to-play players got it later, but I was one of the original owners. Did you also have the Orange Box?
I don't think I bought the Orange Box. I know my wife has an original box of TF2 and disc, but no, I don't think I did. I always got the games individually as they came out at the time. TF2 is not something I played for quite a while. Again, it's such a long time. It's hard to remember. That's 15 years ago now at this point when TF2 came out.
Definitely. I can't even remember that the game only started with 6 maps and only 3 game modes. Capture a flag, control point, and territory control. That was it.
Don't forget far less hats.
Far less hats. That came later. Basically, in 13 years, Valve changed the small amount of content into a massive game. And if it's true, we now have 53 official maps and 7 more game modes like Payload, King of the Hills, Man vs. Machine. And they didn't even stop there. They released it for macOS, Linux, VR support. Unbelievable what they included over those years.
Yeah, on top of that, you got these like special events like Halloween, where they completely shift up the game mechanics by adding in all these spell books, which give you special powers as well as boss battles.
Yeah, it's content-wise, it's amazing what they managed here. It's more or less on the league of Unreal Tournament or StarCraft. StarCraft is also supported for so many years. It's good that there are at least a few companies who still care. But having said that, of course, there was a big silence after the last update in 2020. And sadly, in that time, bots conquered the lobby system more or less. So it wasn't possible to play the game over the lobby because the bots instant gave you a headshot as soon as you joined. It wasn't a good time. Luckily, we still had the classic browser, the classic in-game browser system, so we could join the community servers. But if this would happen to a newer title, that would be the end of the game, I would imagine.
Yeah,
so
I think
we're
bots are...
talking about hacks here or actual really the bots?
Hacks in the bots. The bots were, if I understood it correctly, so programmed that they fill up the empty slots all the time and have a wall hack and everything. Of course, it wasn't on every server, but on a majority of the server. It was really ugly time.
They must have addressed it because my wife does play casual on a regular basis, so they must have fixed it to some degree. But, you know, bots and hacks have been a staple of TF2 for a long time.
They did it.
Okay.
It was, I think, in this year. Did you also experience it a little bit?
I haven't experienced it, no, because I'm always on a community server. I don't like playing casual because I prefer the instant respawn. I don't like waiting so many seconds to respawn. I want to get straight back in the action.
Last week, Saturn basically mentioned it, that this instant action feels a little bit more than Quake 3 or Unreal Tournament. It's so fast.
Yeah, especially the game pace itself. It's rather fast, and for someone who's new in the game, this can be overwhelming. But if you're used to fast-paced shooters, it can be a lot of fun.
But that's what I love about this game. I love the fun. It basically, you have to turn off your brain to play the game, but it's kind of muscle memory. Once you've learned the game well enough, once you have enough hours in it, obviously, you just know the game and you don't think, you just do. I don't know if that makes sense. It's hard to describe. It's just one of those innate things you know when it comes to a game like this.
It's funny because this is pretty much what I was thinking. This is one of those games where you don't go a long way with strategy, maybe tactics, but definitely not strategy. And as you say, there isn't much much planning, much thinking involved. You more or less react and act on instinct.
Yes, and I like that. I like to just be able to sometimes just turn my brain off, have some fun carnage, and then stop up for an hour or two. I'm not so young as I used to be, so I can't maintain that kind of level of pure concentration for hours on end anymore.
Since we already went basically into pros and cons, let's continue. The history isn't giving me any more, sadly, even though it was so long. Yeah. I would say from my side, the biggest pros are, of course, that it's easily to learn, hard to master. It's a fun gameplay, and I really love the humor in it.
Yes, I agree with that. The fact you've got 9 classes with all very distinct playstyles is very nice. I know Overwatch has kind of been the one that takes over from this kind of thing now, but TF2 was really good. I don't want to say it's a pioneer of it, but I think it helped bring sort of class-based combat like this to the foreground because it's so popular.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is definitely not new, but it's well done.
Yeah.
But what is new here is the amazing funny videos which supported the whole game. It's a whole different level, I would say.
Yeah, and I would have quite happily watched an entire TV series with that stuff in it. Everyone was always wondering what they were going to do with Pyro. Were they ever going to show the Pyro's face? And I'm glad they didn't. But I remember watching the Pyro one and then it cuts to the, do you believe in magic? And you're just thinking, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, that video was crazy. It was so amazing.
I'm not sure, as I'm the one who hasn't had a lot of experience with it, but I distinctively remember somewhere I have seen this video where the scout introduces himself and says something along like, well, I heard people. Is this also part of the game, or was this some sort of trailer?
Yeah, it's a trailer for the class, and there's a trailer for each class, so every single character gets their own trailer. But there's also a couple of other sort of longer video forms where it's got all the team. The longest one's like 15 minutes long. It's like a proper short story.
Yeah, it's actually really cool to see stuff like that in a game. I mean, it doesn't make up for missing single player campaign, but still, there's some effort here that doesn't come normally.
I don't think this game needed a single-player campaign. I don't see how they would have done it. I think by crafting each character so well and having you have these trailers and these little stories, that more than makes up for any kind of lack of single-player content.
But it isn't necessarily a lag. I mean, if I look at Unreal Tournament 2004, it also has something that they call the single player, but essentially you are playing an arena shooter against bots in different modes, and of course you could do the same with Team Fortress 2, but actually I didn't like it with UT, and I wouldn't like it with Team Fortress either, so it's not really lost in this fashion.
I think the bots in TF2 are not very good compared to Unreal Tournament anyway.
I think it's true that the game doesn't need a single-player story, but I think it would be amazing that you have a good bot system where you could play all the different modes, customize it. That's really missing here, I think.
It always helps. I mean, as the noob here, I love having a chance doing some sort of training, so to say, alone, not getting my ass handed right away when I come into the game. So, of course, good bots are always a big plus.
And, you know, what I want to say, maybe it even gives you a co-op experience if you host a bot server.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we are still in the pros, right?
Yeah, I just mixed that one from the cons in, but yeah.
No, I was just checking, because what is interesting for me is that the matchmaking kind of seems to work. So our last session, I was pleasantly surprised. Although it was sometimes a little bit strange that a guy with less than 5 hours playtime is second or third in a group of 10 or something. But then again, it means I wasn't getting mobbed. So that really helps new players to actually have fun here. I mean, there are a lot of games out there which don't do it like that, or where the matchmaking simply screws up. And if you stand a chance, then it's a lot more fun, actually.
Well, I have to say that's also one of my pros. The casual modes has really a for me at least, a kind of teamwork in it integrated. So we played together and supported each other. So I pushed you maybe a little bit here.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, actually, this is something that this is strange in many games, that the game actually is based on team play, real team play. I mean, you have this in Counter-Strike as much as you can have it in Unreal Tournament. And when it comes to actually doing teamwork, a lot of these games are not taken seriously. People are playing like, well, it's me alone. I got to do the frags. I got to get the flags, stuff like that. And why? I mean, there's a lot more fun when you really do it in teamwork.
Of course, I can understand that if you played more like Quake, this will move in the background. It's a totally different experience. You also experienced that we had one custom server where the respawn was crazy fast and one where it was very long.
Yeah. I mean, this can be an advantage. Yeah, if you could see this right away, I'm not sure if you can, then you kind of know what to expect. It was a little bit surprising for me to see that there is such a big span, but then again, having the means to customize it in this fashion is also really useful, I think. There are a lot of games out there where you cannot do anything about settings like this. For example, well, the timeout is always 15 seconds. That's it. And this is especially annoying, I think, when you are a newcomer and you're getting fragged a lot, and most of the time you're sitting around and waiting. But if you have only 4 or 5 seconds until your next respawn, it isn't as bad. It doesn't feel that bad. So it's cool that they can set it in such a range, or that they can set it at all.
Well, one good thing about the game is that it's not purely down to kill-death ratio. There's a dozen ways you can earn points, at least, not just from kills, but, assists, destructions, captures, defenses, revenges, headshots, teleports, healing. I'm actually playing a game right now while we're talking, and I have 26 kills and 57 deaths, yet I'm 4th or 5th right now on a 32-player server.
Yeah, also funny. I mean, we haven't had this on the show, but Nexus also does that, and this can add on top even a certain level of strategy, because they do it in a fashion that, for example, if you capture a flag in the sense of you grabbing it, you will get actually a few minus scores. But when you bring it home, of course, you get a lot of points, so it makes sense to not grab the flag if you're not sure if you can get it home. Otherwise, you will get negative score. And I love it when games have this kind of depth to them, where it isn't just stupid frag the others and count the flag scores. Makes a lot more fun.
Talking about fun, I think it's so amazing that they managed not only the amazing trailers, the graphic style which supports it, but also the towns. The entire gameplay is sometimes so casual, fun. It's a masterpiece, basically.
And I think it has actually aged well. It's not just that they added a lot of modes and maps and stuff like that, but actually the game still looks rather decent. I mean, this comic style, of course, makes it a little bit more easy. I think this is clear. But also things like menu font is still really sharp on a 4K screen. And a game that is out since 2007, many of them don't have anything comparable to that. I mean, of course, there are some textures, some overlays that are not in high resolution, but the majority of it looks really good.
Talking about that subject, it's also amazing for me that they included so many different settings. It's unbelievable what you can change in this game. You don't like a certain voice notification, turn it off. You don't like the color of your crosshair or your HUD, or you don't like the size, just change it. Or make a simple screenshot of the stats after every match. So many options, it's amazing. What else is, of course, amazing is the size of the content. So many maps, so many game modes, and some of the game modes are even very unique or very customized. For example, there is this special kind of capture the flag. It's only one map called Asteroid. I think it's called Asteroid, where there are on both sides little robots. You have to kill the robots, collect the power cores from them, and bring it back to your general power core, basically. and it makes so much fun. It's so nicely done. Hats off here.
Yeah, and it's kind of a mixture of this ticket system that many games have. We have, let's say, 160 points every side can have, and once one reaches 0 or the other way gets full, the team has won. And in this case, it's similar to Capture the Flag, that you can carry stuff around, but it's not as singular as grabbing one flag, carrying it over, and there are up to 6 score points score or something like that. But it's more gradual, because the amount of score isn't taken right away. Yeah, if you collect those power cores that you mentioned, okay, of course you will get them instantly, carrying them with you. But even if you're in the enemy's base and are trying to steal from their base, it's not like a switch. You get there and you have 100%, and this makes it a lot more interesting.
I think I played that game mode a couple of times. A bit disappointing they only did it for one particular map. I don't know if they were just trying that game mode out and then decided not to do anything more with it, or it was just a one-off.
Yeah, it was really strange that they had only this map.
But it has a lot of potential, I think.
What I also really like in this game is that they managed the transition from buy-to-play to free-to-play and still kept it bare, basically. I don't have the feeling, maybe Angel, you can correct me here, but I don't have the feeling that it is so unbalanced that it's not playable.
In general, I'd agree with that. It's fairly well balanced. You probably get many subsections of the community disagreeing with you that certain things are OP. There are definitely more OP strategies, but generally speaking, if you're on a server with a decent number of players and decent skill level of players, it can be, quite fair and hard and challenging. So, there is no one easy way to play the game that wins no matter what the situation is. If that makes sense.
And also considering that the game is really complex of the different kinds of weapons, features and everything, it's nearly unbelievable that they balanced it that well.
I mean, in 9 classes alone, I know games which have less classes, but more of the useless ones, Classes nobody ever plays because they suck. They will always get the floor mobbed with. And it doesn't strike me in this way in Team Fortress 2. Every class has its abilities that are really important for the team, and every class can actually cope and progress.
And on the set right play, there's always one of each 9 classes available. Someone has mastered that class and will typically play that class.
Which can be, of course, a little bit strange sometimes. Last match we had with other players, I believe we barely joined, and our team had already 3 snipers out of 5 guys.
It will get unbalanced towards one class or another. Quite a few servers have class limits, so you can only have up to, say, 3 snipers. Sniper is a fairly popular class, obviously, because you can one-shot kill people if you headshot them. But, having 3 snipers on offense doesn't really help you when you need more offensive classes, for example.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. 9 is really a lot.
The one reason one of many reasons I like Pyro is very adaptive. He can be very defensive or offensive in nature. My general strategy at the moment is there's an item called the jetpack, which allows me to be extremely mobile and achieve great distances in a short amount of time. So it's really good for flanking because my range is very short. I have to get right and close, jump into enemy territory and do as much damage as I can, which usually leads me to having at best 1-to-1 kill death ratio, but often negative. But the amount of carnage and damage I'll do in the meantime can very much help the team.
Yeah, this is also my experience. You may not actually kill someone, but when you're flaming 5 guys at the same time and the rest of your team will take them off afterwards, it's still a win for the team.
Yep, and people tend to panic when they're on fire, so...
Yeah. Do you think that the shotgun is any good?
Depends on the shotgun. Some people do still use the shotgun as pyro. Can't remember how many years ago this was now. There's an item called the reserve shooter, which was basically if you put someone into mid-air, it gives full critical damage when you shoot them with the shotgun, and it also had a boost to weapon switch time. So you couple it with a flamethrower that also can have a massive boost to weapon switch time. So you flame them, push them in the air, instantly switch to the shotgun, which will instantly kill them because it gives you massive critical hits. It was a little unfair, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it still needs some skill. It's not being pulled off easily, but if you manage to pull it off, it's really hard.
Yeah, they changed that though, so that strategy is no longer viable. Yeah. Probably for the best, but I do miss that strategy, I have to be honest.
The last thing I have to mention is the amazing wiki. It's so detailed, so well documented and nicely done, basically. I love it.
I don't remember, is this a community wiki or from the publisher or something?
I think it's a community wiki.
Because this is one of those wikis where you would think, well, either there are a few really hardcore enthusiasts behind that, or it has been built up over a long period of time, and I'm not sure which one is the right idea of this in this case.
It was created in 2007 by a guy called Nos. So I would say... Oh yeah, there's the information. Nos, founder of the unofficial Team Fortress wiki. So I guess it's more on the community side, which is nice.
Yeah, that's actually awesome. Because it also means if the publisher would pull the plug on anything, well, they won't be putting the plug on this one.
Okay, guys, anything on the pros, or do we move on the cons?
Maybe I will remember one later.
Well, on the bad side, I would say there are too many items in the game. I mentioned that they are, at least in my taste, good balanced, but it's an overkill. It's too much.
Yeah, and it isn't only cosmetic as far as I have grasped it.
They started being basically the biggest ad game ever, but it didn't take long and they added it more and more and more.
I mean, which is kind of cool, of course. There are a lot of publishers which throw their game on the market and after a year they are simply done. So that's actually really cool.
Yeah, the whole cosmetic side of TF2, that's a whole economy in itself. I haven't looked at prices in ages, but I remember back in the day, certainly the most expensive item was something ridiculous, like almost $10,000.
Oh, that's a lot.
Okay, it's just a hat. It's a hat with a flame on it, an animated flame.
No, really? Not even a weapon?
Not a weapon, no. The most valuable weapons tend to be the ones which are called Australium, which are basically gold-plated weapons, and they tend to be the most valuable types of weapons, but they give you no stats bonuses whatsoever. None of the cosmetic stuff gives you any kind of advantage. It's just cosmetic. That's it.
And not even a meet and greet with the developers or something?
Nope. That there are varying degrees of quality of weapon in terms of, let's say, you can get strange weapons which start counting your kills, and you can add extra qualities to them. Like if you get a kill streak, your weapon will start glowing and things like that. But again, it has no impact on actual gameplay. Doesn't change their stats at all. It's all cosmetic. And I actually like that.
Yeah, this is probably why the game is still more or less fair, even if you can pay money on it.
Yeah, you can dump all this money.
That actually, it's sometimes a little bit strange, of course, because you would think, well, who would buy that? But then again, it's not my problem. If someone is actually paying money for this,
has several hundred euros worth of items, mostly gifted to it at this point. But yeah, I mean, you can spend as much money as you like just to look fabulous in this game, but that's all it will let you do. As
long as it floats your boat, it's just fine.
Yes.
You mentioned that you kind of started with the game twice. What was putting you off in the beginning? First time you tried the game?
I don't really recall. I think it just wasn't really meshing with me. I think it just took me a while to get used to the class-based system, whereas before it was a bit more old-school shooter. You just pick up, Quake, Unreal Tournament, you just pick up a gun and you switch weapons as you like, and you have a favorite weapon and you just go from there. So I think just getting used to the class-based system. I think Battlefield kind of helped me transition to that kind of gameplay.
I mean, problem for the noob is, as I already pointed out, it can be really overwhelming in the beginning because it's not just fast-paced, as you described it. It's sometimes real carnage. It's chaos, and if you have no idea what you're doing and there's a lot of chaos around you, this isn't actually going to help you one bit. And it's kind of nuts at times and can be really overwhelming for a new player. But after a while, you will really get used to it. But it's kind of a cultural shock. You start the game, you think, what the fuck is going on here? This is just nuts.
Yeah, and I kind of consider the game to be like one of the last great arena shooters that's still around. I know we have things like Overwatch, but that doesn't have dedicated servers. It's still matchmaking, and I miss that aspect of arena shooters or first-person shooters like this in general. Because community servers, to me, well, they help build communities. You make friends out of them. I met my wife out of one, so you take that away, you lose a great aspect of these kind of games, and it affects their longevity as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I know we're supposed to be talking about cons, but...
What's also very strange is that if you play man versus machine, the basic mode is for free, but if you want some special maps or modes, you have to pay, and that's really strange that they have here a paywall, and that, I guess it's the only one.
It's a bit more complex than that. Yes, you get access to tougher maps, but also you get better. Basically, the people who are paying for it tend to be better players, so you're more likely to get better team play, and also there is an economy around MVM. It allows you to fabricate the items you need to make a weapon into a strange weapon, which allows you to have kill stats and things like that. So there is a purpose beyond just locking behind certain maps.
Okay, so it's a whole different part of the game I never experienced. It's strange for me. What also a little bit strange is that there are so many settings, in the sense there are so many buttons for the settings. I guess there are 3 different subtypes of settings. I don't know why they streamlined that after so many years.
That's not counting console commands.
I mean, this is always funny with all those Half-Life derived games. They have a shitload of CVARs and commands that you can enter, and this is a whole different story. But already the menus are kind of crushing you. But really brings a strange feeling to me. What I don't really like is actually when you lose and this booing stuff. This is so. You're already laying on the floor and you know you're face down and someone is stumping you a little bit more. It's a little bit too much for my taste. I mean, of course, you can take it like a sportsman and all funny and stuff like that.
I think it's part of the game. It's not something that's ever bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that serious, of course.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Basically, this game is not serious. It's a comedy game.
Yeah.
So basically, you don't like rape time?
Well, rape time is already fun enough, but then say, well, you look like crap afterwards. Not exactly my style.
You've also got the domination system as well. So if a player kills you 4 times in a row, they are your nemesis, and they have a little symbol above their head. So you can have a sort of a rivalry going between them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of those small aspects, actually. I mean, as a novice player, I already have noticed a few of them too, but that's also really interesting how much thought they were actually giving. Do you like the narrator?
Do I like the what?
The voice actually talking to you about the mission.
Oh, the narrator.
Yeah.
Yes. I like the style there. Again, it fits with the whole game's theme, sort of comedy, tongue-in-cheek, not too serious.
Yeah.
I actually saw something recently on Twitter, I think it was a few weeks ago, but the voice actors for the medic, the heavy, the sniper, and the narrator went to a sandwich shop and just performed a little skit with their voices. And yeah, I strongly recommend you go and look it up. It's hilarious.
I totally can imagine. Considering there were probably also other people in this shop. Imagine you're going to a store trying to buy stuff, and all of a sudden you hear these voices which you know very well, and they're all around you and doing some crazy nonsense.
Yeah, I think the person behind the counter was just looking very kind of, what are you doing?
Can imagine. I would probably be laying flat on the floor laughing my ass off.
I guess since we have run out of pros and cons, let's switch to the unique aspect. Basically, you just mentioned it. The humor in it is in every aspect, and I just like it. I think there is nearly no other game which can compete to it. It's in every aspect.
I think that's partially down to Valve's game design theory. Everything in the game is crafted with how the player's going to see things, how things are constructed, what visuals look like. I mean, just take a look at all you have to have is the silhouettes, just nothing but the silhouettes of the characters. You know instantly who that character is and what they're about. Same for the maps. There's a specific color scheme. Red, you go to their areas, everything starts to turn wooden and red. If you're in the blue team, it's more concrete, blue and colder, but it's very simplistic.
Yeah. And this is what I meant. This comic style, the simplicity also helps it look fresh in a way. It ages better in this way.
Yep, you can even have a different art style if you equip. If you're a pirate, no, all classes can do this. If you have a certain item, you basically enter. Is it Pyro Land? So basically, your vision turns more like a pyro vision. So when you hit things, it's you get this sparkles coming off them instead of fire, and just little silly things like that. It just turns even more silly than it currently is.
It's basically you're playing the game on drugs. It looks amazing.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And I have to say, the game also proves for me a little bit that graphic isn't everything. You can have a nice graphic even 15 years after the release. It's not the most important part of a game.
Yeah, I mean, we have discussed it a lot of time. Graphics isn't everything, but imagine if the graphics is in a way that good that it simply passes the test of time without any special effort. I mean, another game that comes to mind for me is Planetary Annihilation. I don't know how people will judge this game in, let's say, 10 or 15 years, but it also has a certain simplicity, and this may help to keep the game fresh in an optical way. And seeing it for Team Fortress, I mean, as I said, it's an easy way to do this comic style look, but then again, it works. So if it works, it ain't stupid.
What also works is, for me, I mentioned it already, the free-to-play system, which I think was the first time in the gaming world, again, at least for me, that it was a fair free-to-play system. It's so rare that you have that. But on the other side, it's crazy that you can spend so many euros, dollars, whatever, for a head. It's really amazing and crazy.
I mean, my unique point here would be this variation of capture flag. I've never seen it done in this fashion. I mean, it's obviously derived from classic game modes, but still it is different. Some thought went into it, and as I said, it actually has potential. I haven't seen it in any other game being done like that.
What I also never saw in a game is the coaching system. I think it's really a nice idea to basically say, hey, I'm an expert in this game. I'm ready to help any new player. This is really nice. I haven't seen it working. I just saw the buttons, but it's really a nice idea.
Yeah. Would actually be the one thing that I would really be interested in, how many people are actually using it. Because the idea for me is also cool, but I haven't used it either myself. So don't know how many people are like me, well, I will figure this out on my own.
Did you touch it, Angel?
I've never used it, no. Can't say I was even aware of it, to be honest. Is it a recent thing?
I don't know how recent it is. It was on the main menu. I saw the button and I thought, oh, that's cool.
Okay. Nope, I didn't notice it.
Another thing which is very cool, very unique, is not only having 9 classes, but having a spy, which basically changes the entire look for the enemy team, but you still see him as your spy. It's an amazing idea.
with a paper mask over his head, so you know what he's actually trying to pretend to be.
Yeah, you know basically what he's playing as, but I like the idea, and it's, I think, the only game which has this spy mechanic.
Well, you can find it in StarCraft 2 as well. There are changelings which do something very similar, but it's a completely different game type, so it's still different.
And it can be really frustrating if you knifed for the 400th time. It's sometimes really hard.
Yeah. I mean, then again, what's the point of this character? This is exactly its job. Of course, it can get in the way of fun, but then again, a pyro or a heavy can mess your day as well. It's just less surprising. I think the surprise aspect is what's driving one mad. Don't know what you're getting yourself into.
And of course, coming with those many different classes is the special language this game has. Every player knows stuff like, let's do a spy check, and the pyro is just flaming everything. It's very unique and very nice. And Angel, of course, you have a very unique story. Can you tell us what happened in this game for you?
Well, as I've perhaps mentioned once or twice now, I have a wife, and I met this wife playing Team Fortress 2. We met on the Fragmasters server. We'd been playing on the same server for quite a while, but an incident basically led me to talk to her and someone else, and then we just started talking. We hit it off, and then I started making... So just for reference, I'm from the UK, and I was living in the UK at the time, and she's from Finland. I am now living in Finland. I started visiting Finland once a month for a few days each month, and then after almost a year, basically decided, okay, I want to try and make this work with this woman. I don't want a long distance relationship. She didn't, so I thought, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna drop everything, move to Finland, and see how it goes. And 3.5 years later, I'm married and have a 2-year-old daughter with her, so it's going pretty well.
So this game quite literally changed your life.
It did indeed.
So guys out there, you know, if someone is saying you're playing computer games all day long, get a girl, doesn't mean that this are two different things.
Well, this is the thing, that there's been quite a few relationships that I've noticed on Fragmasters alone. It seems to be... There's actually quite a high number of female players on TF2. I think because of the art style and the comic aspect of it. It's not just a completely male-dominated kind of game. And so, yeah, there's an in-game item which you can buy for $100 or 100 euros, whatever the local currency is, which basically will announce to every single player that you are married.
Okay.
I'm not just talking game, I'm talking like it'll be announced so everyone playing TF2 would know.
Okay, that's really different.
We didn't do that. No, we didn't have that kind of money to spend on that kind of item, so.
I never thought of Team Fortress 2 basically as the dating simulator. It's a nice idea.
Oh yeah. Forget Tinder, get to Team Fortress.
But yeah, she still plays on a daily basis. I don't really play as much anymore because of TFTC takes up most of my time, and little spare time I do have, sometimes I just want to play other games. 2
stupid questions here. Do you still remember what classes you played the first time? Were you enemies? How was the first time in the game for you both?
I can't speak for her, so I don't know about that. But as for me, I think it was heavy and engineer was my tended to prefer at the time. And as I explained earlier, it wasn't till I kind of understood Pyro that I really started to find my enjoyment with the game. Like, I got it now. This is what I'm here for. Pyro perfectly exemplifies my style of playing, which is basically spray and pray, but extremely aggressive at gameplay. And Pyro perfectly encapsulates that kind of gameplay for me.
And the next question would be, how did you communicate? I would imagine by voice, but it could also be possible that you just chatted. What did you do?
Well, initially it was just Steam chats, but she was on a Discord server, so I joined, and yeah, we just started chatting, and yeah, after a while we were just on Discord every day, playing with each other.
Oh, okay, it was already in the Discord era. I thought maybe 2010, 11?
No, we met in late 2017 is when we first met and started chatting. Very early, January 2018. It's been almost 5 years since we first met and started chatting.
Nice. The modern era of the internet.
Indeed.
It wasn't at least ICQ.
No. Still remember my ICQ number though.
Really?
72564036.
Oh no. I can't even guess what my number was. Well, I would say let's switch to the next point. As a pro gamer with so many hours, what would you say? Would you wish for a new title? What could a new title be?
I don't think it needs a Team Fortress 3. I don't know what they could really do better than what it is now. It's good. It's got plenty of players still. There's no economic reason for Valve to do this. They're making lots of money from TF2, I'm sure. So, yeah, I don't think it needs a TF3, and I'd have no idea what they could really do to improve it. Aside from graphics, even then, it doesn't really need that much. Just touch the textures up to be more high def. Don't just start making it, realistic looking or, adding more crap onto the screen, because that it goes against the kind of emphasis that sort of Valve's design philosophy of gaming. Stick to the basic elements. Don't clutter your screen with all this crap.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much what I think about it too. Some of the graphics may need some polishing, but it's not really bad. And aside from that, I think it's just fine the way it is. I mean, of course, it's like always, the game has to vibe with you. But when you like this kind of game, I don't think it doesn't need any change.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, port it to the latest version of Source 2. I don't know what's happened with Source 2 these days, but a much more up-to-date engine with more robust anti-cheat features. But, cheating is a never-ending problem.
So it's actually more the practical stuff that may improve.
Yeah, I don't see a need for a TF3 in terms of gameplay, and at this point, they would be in fierce competition with things like Overwatch 2, and the like.
The only thing I can think of would be a good bot system where you can learn the game. Basically make a good tutorial for new players, which you could even play together for the coaching system, for example.
I mean, it's something that also would help, but it's not a necessity. Open for other platforms like GOG or, let's say, Epic Store. This would be something that, in my opinion, could also help a little. Because there are people like me, or how I used to be, that say, I don't want anything to do with Steam, or I don't like this specific platform for whatever reason. And if it is on your favorite platform, okay, no discussion, will work.
I think, I can't remember now, it's a little bit embarrassing, but I think they tried to develop an Xbox version but cancelled it. I think they thought about different systems at least.
I mean, it would be, again, difficult to join Xbox players and PC players.
In a shooter, it's always difficult, yeah. Okay, then I would say let's go for the last point, hidden content. I found on the internet so many reference in-game for movies, other games. It's amazing what the game has in hidden rooms. Maybe Angel, as the long-time player here, can you tell us maybe some favorites?
Honestly, no, I can't. It's not something I actually pay too much attention to. I am aware that they have lots of references and whatnot, but my knowledge is a little out of date and sketchy at this point in time. So, no, I'm afraid I can't really provide any info there.
Good, since this is basically the part of the video where we open the mic to you. Is there any topic we missed? Anything you would like to add?
No, I think we covered it. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us. It was great talking to you. Okay, I would say that's it for this review. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the game, and of course, play the game. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.